Bitcoin price came to the 100-day moving average on a daily chart. Right now, if you are looking at that, okay, we have a bit of slowdown there. So what really is happening? While we were in the support, we discussed about this, saying, okay, we are going to bounce, but as we bounce, keep this moving average as a resistance, because that's going to act as a resistance. When we came there, it was like this, okay, that particular day it felt like, okay, we are going up, we are going down, we are having a wick above that moving average. But we were like, okay, wait, let's first break that one. Now, when you go on a daily chart and look at this, okay, you can kind of get this narrative, okay, you are slowing down a bit, and you do have possibility to go down towards 40,500 and bounce. Now, if you look at that, yes, we came to that level, which is the previous resistance, now acting as a short-term support, and we are bouncing. Now, with that bounce, when you come on, yes, I personally think once you hold on to this range, you can break this moving average. And once you break the moving average, you're going towards this roof, right? Inside this pattern, you're still inside that parallel line, which is a corrective pattern. So understand we are going to go towards $50,000 right now. And as you go towards $50,000, you're going to see movement in altcoins. You're going to see a lot of movements in the altcoins, because if you have noticed, when Bitcoin moved 1 or 2%, there were a lot of altcoins doing way more than that. Okay, you can see ZIL performing fine, doing great. Then you go on to small cap, medium, micro cap, and you see a lot of different coins bursting through, right? And these are actually opportunities in the market. So if you can understand, like, okay, this is a good opportunity, you're like, okay, you can literally enter maybe $100, maybe $1,000, maybe $10,000, but it completely depends on your size of your positioning, right? But that gives you the ability to make the profit. So what is really standing in between you knowing these patterns, you knowing these assets, and the probability of them going higher, say ZIL here as we talked about, or any of these coins like LON, 0x. Now there are 15,000 coins in this market. So you knowing what a coin exactly is going to pump in next hour is going to be super hard. But if you have the probabilities like this, you still can take the advantage, right? We posted this a bit while ago, and if you had this knowledge, okay, ZIL is going to move higher, you now have the advantage to know that, okay, this has a probability because this is doing this particular pattern, right? Or you go to this particular one, this is ZRX. So when you go to ZRX, you see, okay, you're going to go down, fine. But if you get a retest and bounce here, that's bullish. So, when you see ZRX running like this right now, and you go to look at what the current price is, you can see that, okay, we came back, we retested, and we are bouncing. So you get the same in price. So yes, there are different targets as you break higher, and we have that in the Patreon. We have already posted all of those. So if you are looking for those, you can definitely understand the market is showing good stuff. There's another one. If you go look at SNX right now, you'll actually understand. Now, it was not a good buy for a very long time, and we've highlighted that, right? It was not a good buy for a long time, but right now, it's slowly becoming a buy with, upside targets. Now, we already broke higher. We came to 6.5 something, and I thought, okay, I'll share this with you guys too. So if you want to enter, it's up to you. That's an opportunity, right? Then you go look at different assets in the market. This is Jasmine. When you look at this, okay, you were like, okay, you are getting a reversal candle on a 4-hour, which was validated on a 12-hour, and when you zoom on to a daily, you get a reversal sign with the volume coming in. That's when I put this chart out, and then you see this. Okay, you already moved up 60%. Now we are at a short-term resistance, and as you break that, you're going to run higher towards the bigger resistance. Now you have a lot of assets which are really doing good. You have, different assets showing you different probabilities. So one of them, if you're entering, you need to actually understand, okay, this is what I'm looking at. I'm entering here. Fine. So this happens to be in Jan. Then this one, I update March. So with the March update, okay, you already came up there. You broke that trend line. So you had this trend line here. Then you came higher. You broke that one. Then again, you went up. So after you ran up, there was a correction. So people were like, oh, are we going to go down? So that's when I was like, I personally think it's going to bounce like this. It's going to bounce back because I think that's a breakout, retest, and bounce. The normal typical structure, right? Then you look at the price right now. You went up, you came up down. Now you are bouncing. So if you look at each and every stuff like this, it's good. But understand, it's not always, the roses, gold, red carpet and all. Why? Because market also trend lower. This is an asset which I was saying, okay, we are trending lower. We are still inside this pattern, so we may trend to the downside. And if you look at that, yes, we are trending to the downside. So it doesn't actually matter when the Bitcoin goes up. Some of the alt runs, not all of them runs, because if you go to the other side of this, you see a lot of coins which are not doing that great. Fine. But if they are still holding on to their macro supports, that's a buy. So you understanding where to buy, where to sell is really important in this particular scenario. That's one of the reasons why we go through all of these assets on a regular basis. So you know which asset is a good buy, which asset is not, right? You look at all the possibilities, you look at the patterns, then you understand, okay, this one is breaking to the upside, this one is my target. You get all of those along with what's happening in the market as of now, because that's also important, because you knowing what Bitcoin is doing is important, because Bitcoin, when it's bouncing, gives that advantage to the market. Say when Bitcoin drops 5%, alts drop 10, I agree. But when Bitcoin bounces 1%, alts go nuts. When Bitcoin go 2, 3, 4, 5% a day, alts go crazy. Now, which alts, it's really hard to pick. But you can really say from the basket of 15,000, if you are still taking 10, 15 and making the gains, that's low risk, high reward stuff which a common man can really do. And that's what we actually try to do. Now, coming on to XRP, we need to look at the support, the resistance, what's it doing right now. Because we have same pattern playing out on a shorter term. There's a sub-daily chart, and then you go on to a 3-day macro view and you get the same perspective, you get the same pattern. Right, so you have to compare it with the market, what the market is doing, and then there are some negative stuff which rarely happens to be positive, but majority of the time that pattern comes into play, that happens to be negative. And where are we observing that? We are actually observing that right now on ETH. Now that's a 40% probability, because if you move a little bit here and there, the same asset shows you this pattern, right? So it's up to you how you connect the resistance, but you cannot actually neglect that. For me, I'll say 40% chances are still there for it to do this stuff. But 60% still actually goes with this one. So fine, once you understand your probability and odds, you're like, okay, I can take a decision now. So let's actually go through this stuff. Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where we discuss crypto and science behind investing regularly. So guys, as the market bounces, you need to understand, yes, there is a lot of positive news coming in, going out. But for XRP precisely, when John actually gives you this idea, you need to actually understand this guy knows what he's talking about, right? Previously, he was actually talking about September, but right now it's pushed to December, the best case scenario. Now look at what the worst case is, right? It's again going far. So that can really bleed XRP holders. I do understand. I'm an XRP holder. XRP is one of the biggest asset in my portfolio, right? But when the market is about to do something great, you're going to go to wave 2. Yes, you have to keep XRP, because we don't know when the settlement is going to come in. And if that happens to be quicker, you are going to bounce through these, right? But at the same time, if it's slowing down for some time before it actually rallies up, you still need to make liquidity. And that's why we are like, okay, we are doing all these charts, we are doing all these trades. Recently, I also entered in one of these charts, which I showed you, which I personally think is going to have short-term, medium-term, and long-term gains. And, as soon as I enter, I inform my members, okay, this is an asset which looks like this. These are the targets, and I'm entering here. If I'm not entering, I'm like, okay, these are the targets. That's it. But you still get the idea of what asset and how it's going to perform. Say XRP, if you look at this, from last year, we've been testing this level as a support. Can see how many times we've tested that as a resistance, as a support, resistance, resistance, support, support. So these are still there. Then look at the upside. Fine, that's 0.9. We are still inside this trade. So we are range bound from last December. We can say that yes, we did have a wick here. We went to the lower end and then came back up. But we are testing that range and staying here. Now, one of the positive stuff in this scenario is like, okay, you're making this pattern, which if you break to the upside is great. But you also have the moving average above you. So the moving average usually acts as a resistance. So you need to break through that one too. So when you zoom out on a daily chart, XRP do have the trend line resistance. XRP do has the resistance from the moving average. So that's a 100-day moving average. You can go on and change that 100-day moving average. Say you are a long-term investor. You're like, okay, fine, I'm looking at 200-day moving average. That's acting as a support and I'm happy with that. Fine. I get the point. But in between, you have others who are trading based on 100-day moving average. You have others trading based on a 50-day moving average. So you can change all of these and see what's happening, because most of them, when they trade, they use 50-day moving average or they use a 21-day moving average to see whether the price is bullish or not. If the price is above that, they consider it bullish. If the price is below that, they don't. So you trading that one, you need to keep this idea in your mind. Okay, fine, the asset is now bullish. The asset is now consolidating. Because if you are going to stay there, you have the ultimate patience, that's great. But a lot of them don't. So if you don't have that long time frame, 5-10 years of investing time horizon, you still have to make money. You still need liquidity. You can take a little bit of this, little, not everything, little bit of this, and go into this market where you see a lot of opportunities. Because opportunities does pop up here and there, and if you can seize them on the right time, then be patient for a month or two, you are making profits. You put $1,000, you get 50% up. That's okay. You make 1,500. If you're putting bigger sum, that's a big amount. But understand, next time you can go into 2 assets with 750, right? Next time you can double that. So this is a slow process, but while you waiting for your XRP to double, you can make more money. Then buy back your XRP at the same price or lower prices if price is dropping. So you get more units. So if you're like, okay, my aim is 10,000 XRP, my aim is 100,000 XRP, my aim is 1,000,000 XRP, whatever it is, you're taking just 5-10% of that to make more liquidity to buy this asset more. It's not like you're moving out of this asset, because you know the fundamentals of this asset. And if you have done the proper research for this asset, you're like, nah, I'm standing here, I'm not moving. Whatever happens, I'm not moving. Why? Because the fundamentals are so strong. We understand that. But the market can be like this. It can stay rational for longer than we can stay liquid. This is from a historian in the investing field, right? And we are like, the market can be that, but I'll be liquid. What will I do? I'll do research. I'll put my time in. I'll put my time in to learn what the market does to stay liquid. So the market is trying to push you out. You're trying to push back. Fine. You can take the time. Once you learn how to do this, you are coming on. Now, if you are like, okay, you have a job, you have a family, it's really hard to manage your time, you can just join the Patreon. That's one of the easiest way you get all these alerts. Now, this is Patreon alerts, and once you go to Telegram, you have a lot of Telegram alerts. Now, I can show you that because there's a lot of calls outs, breakouts, which is running right now. So once the target hits, I'll show you guys. But before that, if you want to get that, you can look at the link of Patreon, which is given in the description below. Now, guys, understand this market is about you putting your money in the right assets. If you don't do that, go look at these. There are assets which are not doing great. But there's a 7-day scenario, so it doesn't actually hurt you. Now, can go on to the return rates here in Corn Paprika, can go to last quarter. You can then look at what assets have done well, what assets have not. And if you still believe in the fundamentals of that one, you see liquidity in that one, that's an opportunity. It's one of the easiest way where you can say, that's an opportunity for me, I'm entering there. You go look at the yearly scenario, some has went massively upside, take your profits, get out. And then others is still way lower and they're changing their pattern, they're changing their trend. You're like, okay, that's a great one. I'm entering there. These are the easiest stuff for you to look at. The others is like price action. You go look at the candle, you go look at how the market react at one price. So one asset, one price at that time, how the investors and traders reacted to that. So right now the Ether is showing you this on a macro. Okay, once it's going to break higher, it's going to be a continuation pattern. Now there are different continuation patterns which you have seen previously, right? It's actually great, it's fine. And 40% scenario is that it's not this one. It can be a negative one. But still you can say, okay, 60% odds are there for this one, right? So you're like, okay, fine. But if you look at this, yeah, you can break to the downside, and weekly moving average, 100-day moving average is close here. So you may not actually drop too much. Buyers would possibly come way before you go lower, because this asset is being pushed in. Now, whether you agree or not, whether I agree or not, this asset is being pushed out throughout the world. We know that it's not sustainable, it's not scalable, it's just bullshit. But investors, a lot of them don't even know what Bitcoin is. They don't even understand what Ether is. Unless they go into say, okay, that's the layer 1 technology. You look at some other layer 2 technology built on top of this one and you're like, oh, that's space. It's not working well, right? It's really hard for anyone to actually think like, okay, if that's taking a lot of your time, effort and money to do a transaction, is going to be hard to survive long term, right? So that stuff has to keep in mind. You look at this and you're like, okay, fine, I understand this. This would most likely be kicked out from the market in 5, 10, 15 years. We don't know. But short term, all of these investors are embracing that. So you also need to consider that money flow coming into the market. And then, yes, if you believe in an asset, you stay put there, but you do look at what the price action is doing. See, this one, we already talked about, right? ZRX, it's already moving through, it's going through the resistance, it's going to break this one. We have higher targets, right? So once the resistance breaks, we reach our targets and you take your profits, right? That's great. So when you see one coin breaking higher in the same market, getting a lot of volume compared to what you used to get and breaking higher like that, big candles, yeah, XRP also used to do that, right? We also used to get those kind of candles. Say if you are looking at that, the wait time, in the recent past when we used to get that, but the resistance is always slowing us down, and this particular pattern is it's now super long, right? We've been staying inside this, making this bottom. If you look at this resistance line which you plot like this, you end up getting longer time horizons. So if you have time to actually look at this, we are like, okay, we waited till this point in time and it's still June, July, it's extending towards that side. Most likely we're going to break before that, but the maximum possibility is there. And that's like May, June, July, fine, 3 months. In that 3 months, we may have other coins which are running crazy, because we do have to look at Bitcoin. And if Bitcoin is bouncing from this level, as we just discussed, we are going to get that run higher in Bitcoin. So you just, okay, that's a hourly chart. You go on to a daily to see what's the probability, and you like, okay, this is the probability. But again, the roof will come in there unless you break and retest and bounce there, right? A lot of traders will react something, okay, I'm going to take my profit. Some are like, okay, I'm going to sell at this point. Some are like, no, I'm going to buy more, all this. But the market is a weighing machine long term, right? It weighs how much people are on which side. And that's the reality. So you knowing this and understanding the odds gives you an advantage over the market. Because a lot of people lose in this market. Only a few make money in this market. So guys, if you receive value for your time, please do hit that like and subscribe button. That supports the channel a lot. If you want these kind of updates for your portfolio, different assets which you have in your portfolio, you can look at the Patreon. The link is given in the description below. So guys, I'll meet you on the next video. Bye for now.